Assalamu alaikum students. I am Aisha Anwar. Welcome to the computer class. Today we are going to start new chapter from your book, which is chapter number 4, control structures. So let's start today's lecture. First of all, we should be clear about the concept of control structures, that what are control structures. Control structure basically controls the flow of a program execution, which means that we can control the execution lines. Normally, up till now, all the examples that we have covered contain the normal flow of execution or in a sequence, but sometimes it is required to change the execution sequence according to the requirement. So, to change the sequence of a program execution is done with the help of control structures. Control structures are a very important concept in computer programming. They allow programmers to control the flow of program execution. Basically, there are three types of control structures: sequential, conditional, and repetition. Sequential control structures are the conventional control structures, and up till now all the examples we have done during our classes and all the programs that you have done on Dev C++ all are executed in the sequence. Sequential means to execute a program line by line. Using sequential execution, program is executed from the first line to the last line. The second type of control structures are the selection control structures, and they are based on some decision. We will discuss them in detail. Third one is repetition. They repeat some set of instructions for some specific numbers of times. We will discuss these three in detail, and we will also be covering the statements used to implement these structures. Now, if you see these flow charts, you will be getting the idea of control structures in much better way, as the first one shows the sequential control structure. The first statement will be executed first, then the second statement, then third statement, and so on. All the statements will be executed one by one in the order in which they are written. The selection control structures are based on decision. Here we will make some sort of decision. We will check for some condition. If the condition is true, these set of statements will be executed, and if these condition is false, then some other set of instructions will be executed. The set of lines, either this one or this one, will be depending upon this decision. This decision can either be true or false. If it is true, set 1 of the execution will be executed. If it is false, set 2 of the instructions will be executed. Third one is the repetition or iteration control structures. If you see, here we are having a condition or a decision. We mentioned some type of condition over here. When this condition remains true, this set of instructions will be executed again and again. Again it will check for the decision. If it is true for the next time, then again these set of instructions will be executed. Now it will again check for the condition for the third time. If still it is true, then again these set of instructions will be executed. These set of instructions will be executed again and again when this condition remains true. When this condition remains false, it will execute some other set of instructions. We will discuss all of these three in detail. First of all, let's discuss sequential control structures. Sequential control structures refers to the execution of instructions one by one in a sequence in which they appear in the program from top to the bottom till the last instruction. It is the same thing that we have discussed in our previous slides, that sequential control structures execute lines one by one in the same order in which they are written from start to the end of the program. As its name refers, that instructions are executed in a sequence in which they are written. So, sequential control structures are the normal control structures and they are implemented by default in a single program. We don't need special type of statements or instructions to implement the sequential control structure. Here it is the example of sequential control structure. The statements are written in a program like statement 1, statement 2, statement 3 and so on. And in which the order will they be executed? First of all, first statement will be executed, then the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one and so on till the last instruction or the statement that is written in the program. Now the second one is selection control structures. Selection control structures are also known as conditional control structures. They are also called conditional because we check for a particular condition in this type of control structures. Conditional control structures or selection control structures are also known as decision control structures because we have to make some type of decisions using this type of control structures. Sometimes it is the requirement that we have to check for some conditions. For example, if marks are greater than 33, if temperature is less than 30 degrees or like that, there can be various conditions which can be checked according to the requirements. So, if a condition is met, it means that if the condition is true, a specific set of statements or instructions are executed, otherwise control is transferred to the other part of a program. see this in this flowchart. In conditional control structures, we are checking for the condition, and if this condition is true, this set of statement will be executed. If this condition is false, this set of instructions will be executed, and then in the end all other statements will be executed till the end of the program. So, here we are making a decision. Depending upon that decision, one set of instructions between these two will be executed. Normally, programs are written to solve the user's problem. And to solve a particular problem, we have to make various decisions, and those decisions are depending upon the nature of a problem. So, decision control structures help us to make decisions in programming. Not even C++. These control structures are implemented in all the computer programming languages. Basically, they allow programs to execute a specific statements or set of statements based on one or more decisions. The conditional control structures are implemented with the help of some statements in C++ language, and these statements are if statement, if else statement, else if statement, and switch statement. These are the four statements through which we implement the conditional control structures. In today's lecture, we will be covering if statement, if else statement, and else if statement. So, here I have mentioned the syntax, and I will repeat this syntax many times so that you can easily memorize the syntax and implement these statements in your programs. The if statement is the simplest statement, and you can see that we simply write down the reserve word if, and within the brackets we mention the condition. Please notice that there is no semicolon at the end of the if statement. If we put a semicolon over here, then definitely there will be a syntax error. So, please remember their syntax. There is no semicolon in the end of the if statement. Using if else statement, we check for a condition, and depending upon the condition whether these set of statements are to be executed or the else portion is to be executed. In else if statement, we check for multiple conditions or multiple choices, and also notice that there is no semicolon in the end of any if statement. In paper, sometimes it is asked to remove the errors from the code. And what type of errors can be included in the program? The unwanted semicolons may be marked, or some necessary semicolons may be missed. So, you have to identify the errors. To identify those errors, please be careful about the syntax of each and every statement in C++. First of all, we will be covering the if statement. The if statement is used to execute the block of a statement based on a specific condition, as we have discussed earlier. Here its syntax is also mentioned again. First of all, we write the word if, then condition, then we start the curly brackets, and within the curly brackets we write all the statements that are to be executed if the condition is true. Here is the execution flow diagram of if statement. The if statement is always represented in the diamond shape. The conditions are mentioned in the diamond shape. If the condition is true, the set of statements is written that is to be executed. If this condition is false, simply it will execute the normal statements after the end of the if statement. All the execution statements that are written after the if will be executed if the condition is false. It will not check for another choice, it will only check for the one choice. Here is the example for if statement. Here we have declared a variable test which is of data type int, which means that test is an integer variable which can store only int type of data. We have assigned a value 5 to the variable test. Now here we are checking for the condition if test is less than 10. So the value of test is 5. We are checking if 5 is less than 10. Yes, 5 is less than 10. So the condition is true. When the condition is true, this block of statements will be executed. But what if this expression is false, or if this condition is false? We have changed the condition if test is greater than 10, which means we are checking if 5 is greater than 10. No, 5 is not greater than 10. So this condition is false, which means that this part will be skipped and the code which is written after the if statement will be executed. Here is a complete example for if statement. Here you can see that we have declared a variable number. Using cout statement, we have displayed a message, enter an integer. Whatever the number user will be entered, that number will be stored in a variable number with the help of this cin statement. If you remember, in our previous lectures we have discussed the purpose and syntax of cin statement. If we want to get the input from the user, we use the cin statement. The number that is entered by the user will be stored in the variable number. Now here we are checking a condition if number is greater than 0. Then what message will be displayed on the screen? You entered a positive integer. After displaying this message, the normal statements will be executed, whatever it is written over here. Now when this program will be executed, first of all we will see a message on the screen, enter an integer. For example, user has entered a value 10. Now what will happen? The program will check if 10 is greater than 0. Yes, this condition is true. When this condition is true, this message will be displayed on the screen, and after displaying this message, all the rest of the statements will be executed. But what will happen if user has entered -3 instead of 10? Now again it will check -3 is greater than 0. No, this condition is false. So this line will not be displayed on the screen. Simply we can see a single message on the screen, whatever is written within this output statement. This statement will not be executed and only this statement will be executed. You can try this program by writing it in def C++ and change the different values and try this. The second statement is if-else statement. The if-else statement allows making decision between two courses of action, which means we can select between the two options that are available. Here is its syntax. We write the reserved word if, and after if we write the conditions. If this condition is true, then we write the statements over here. But what if this condition is false? Then we write that portion after the keyword else. So here you can see that we are discussing again the scenario if the condition is true and what will happen if the condition is false. We have declared an integer type variable number and it has value 5. 5 is greater than 0. Yes, this condition is true. If this condition is true, this block of code will be executed. After executing this block, the else portion will be skipped and it will execute the program statements that are written after the if-else statement. But what will happen if this condition is false? 5 is less than 0. No, this condition is false. So this portion will be skipped and these lines will be executed. After executing these lines which are written in the else portion, the code after the if-else statement will be executed. So keep in mind, if the condition is true, the if block will be executed and else block will be skipped. But if the condition is false, the if block will be skipped and else portion will be executed. So we are having two choices. We mentioned first choice in if portion and the second choice in the else portion. Here is an example for if-else statement. Again we are taking the same example with the minor change of the else statement. Again we have taken the integer value from the user and that value is stored in the variable number. For example, the user has entered the number 7. What will happen? 7, if 7 is greater than or is equals to 0. Yes, this condition is true. So this message will be displayed, that is you entered a positive number, and this portion will be skipped. The line which is written after the else will be skipped and now this line will be executed. Now again if we execute the same program and this time user has entered some number that is -5, it will check for the condition. If -5 is greater than or is equals to 0, no, this condition is false. When this condition is false, this statement will be skipped and else portion will be executed. This time you entered a negative number. After executing this line, it will again execute the next line, which is this line is always printed. I hope you are getting me. If you are facing a difficulty in understanding the programs, simply write down these programs in Def C++ and try it. When you will execute these programs by yourself, you will understand them in much better way. The third statement that is used to implement the conditional transfer control is the else if statement. The else if statement is used in situation where a decision is to be made from several choices or several conditions. The if statement gives you the single option, if else statement gives you two options, and if we are having more than two options or more than two choices, we use else if statement to implement that situation. Here is the syntax of else if statement. First of all, we write the word if, then write down the first condition. If this condition is true, this block of statements will be executed. But if this condition is false, then it will check for the next condition. If this condition is true, then these statements will be executed. But if this condition is false, then the last statement is executed. Now, here you can see the flow of the else if statement. What will happen if the first condition is true? If the first condition is true, this code will be executed and rest of lines will be skipped, and then it will be execute the code after the if statement. What will happen if the second condition is true? It will skip the first part. It will execute the second part because the second condition is true, and it will also skip the third part, which is written after the else statement, and after skipping that, it will execute the normal code which is written after the if statement. Now, what will happen if all the conditions are false? First condition is false, so skip this statement. Second condition is also false, it will skip these statements and simply it will execute the else portion, and after executing the else portion, it will execute the normal lines or the regular lines which are written after the if statement. Here is the example. It is the same example that we have discussed in previous slide, but now it has some minor change to implement the else if portion, which means in this it is giving us more than two options. Again, we will get the number from the user. Whatever the number user will enter, according to that it will check for the conditions. For example, the user has entered 2, it will check 2 is greater than 0, yes, it is true. So for this, these statements will be executed. You entered a positive integer and the rest of these statements will be skipped and it will execute this line. But what will happen if user has entered -2? It will check if number is greater than 0, it will check -2 is greater than 0, no, this is false. So it will skip this statement, it will come to the next condition. If -2 is less than 0, yes, -2 is less than 0, so this statement will be executed, this portion will be skipped, and this statement will be executed, because this is the normal or the regular statement after the else if statement. Now what will happen if user has entered 0? 0 is greater than 0? No, condition is false, so this will be skipped. Then it will check for the other condition. 0 is less than 0? No, this condition is also false, so it will skip this line. So here it will execute this statement, and after executing this statement it will execute this regular statement in which it is written this line is always printed. So here is a simple task for you. You have to write a program to find the result of a students. If marks are greater than 40, print pass on the screen, otherwise print fail message on the screen. It is the very simple program to implement the conditional control structures. Once you will be able to write this simple program on Dev C++, then you will also be able to write some complex programs like to find out the grades of students, in which multiple conditions are given, like if marks are greater than or equal to 80, print A plus. If marks lies between 70 to 80, print A. Then again 60 to 70, print B, and so on. So once you write this program, then we will move towards the next stage, that is to checking for a multiple conditions and multiple options. You have to perform this on Dev C++. If you are having installation issues with Dev C++, follow this online link that I have already shared with you. To implement C++ programs online, simply open up this link and type your program and simply press the execute button to see the output. And if you are having availability issues of laptop or computer, simply write down this program on a page and share your answer with me. That's all for today. If you are having any queries, please send me your confusions and queries. Have a good day. Thank you.